All right, hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name's Curtis, and today we're gonna be talking a little bit about my fragrance fails. Fragrance social faux pas. Basically, this has to do with, number one, me maybe not choosing the right fragrance for the appropriate situation or event that I was going to. And number two, which is very important, my spray routine. I oversprayed these fragrances for sure. And I think that came from, the reason why I did that was for two different reasons. One, I was being selfish. I did understand the strength of these fragrances, but I chose to, overspray these fragrances. And, the amount of sprays that I did may not have been oversprays for some people, but, you really have to adjust your sprays for the environment that you're going into. Maybe I might use this maybe I might usually do 3 sprays with this fragrance, but because I'm going to this event or this specific place, maybe 1 spray is appropriate. So you really need to think about the number of sprays you're doing with your fragrances. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of story time and and talk about the fragrances that I chose for specific events and how they failed for that time because of maybe the number of sprays, maybe the scent profile that I chose for that event. So if you're curious to hear my thoughts and opinions about these fragrances and a little bit of story time, then let's go. All right, guys, so for those of you who don't know, I do live here in Japan. I've been living here for the past 13 years, almost 14 years now. And so the way that Japanese view perfume in Japan, they really believe in the art of subtlety. They don't have so much of a body odor. So whenever they use fragrances, they believe in more like light, airier, more fresh style of fragrances. So when you start to dive into like the heavier style of fragrances, beast mode style fragrances really don't have a place in Japanese culture. Can you wear those here? Yes, but you need to be careful in your application and really think about how you can make those fragrances work. Now for me, like I said, I've been living here for almost 14 years now. So, I think I have it down pretty well. I understand the way that Japanese culture works, but I still make mistakes. We'll be talking a little bit about my mistakes that I've made, and hopefully this video is helpful for any people who are coming to visit Japan. But not only that, but just thinking about your environment, wherever you are in the world, and how you can, have the best fragrance wearing experience for yourself. Because I think the thing is this, you don't want to go into this and just in the selfish way of just thinking me, I. I think whenever you start to invade someone else's personal space, that kind of becomes a problem, right? Let's be considerate, let's think about others a little bit. But, I do understand, I'm a fragrance lover too. I do want to be able to smell the fragrance and enjoy it as well. But, the last thing I want to do is invade someone else's space, make them uncomfortable, and which in turn makes me uncomfortable. So anyways, let's jump into a bit of story time. So the first story that we'll be talking about today, and I've told this story on the channel before, but I'll go ahead and start out with this story, is with Sultan Vetiver. And so I love this fragrance. This is hands down my favorite Vetiver fragrance in my collection. And I won't jump into, the scent profile that much of this fragrance, but if you've ever worn Sultan Vetiver, you know that this is a slap in the face of Vetiver. And for someone whose nose is not accustomed to this could be a bit overwhelming. And not only that, in its scent profile, but the strength of this is this is a strong fragrance. The story with this fragrance is, so we were having a dinner kind of party at work. And the way that dinner parties work in Japan is that, you'll go to the restaurant or a hotel, and then everybody sits at like kind of separate tables. So basically I sat down, there were two women on the side of me, Japanese women, and I think I was the only male at that table, to be honest. So mind you, when I came into the room, nobody had a mask on. Nobody. Everybody's mask off, but everybody carries a mask with them. Nobody had a mask on. So that day, I knew I was going to a dinner party. What did I do with Sultan Vetiver? I was like, oh yeah, I got the bright idea. Let me put on 3 sprays of this on the neck, exposed. I was being a bit selfish because I love the smell of this. So I was just like, boom, 1, 2, 3. This stuff is so potent. Okay, so I put on 3 sprays. I walk in, I come to my table. I'm like, oh, hey, everybody, sit down. Literally within 5-10 seconds, the 2 ladies right next to me get out their masks and put it on. And at that time, I was like, oh, no. I knew exactly why they were putting their masks on. They were putting their masks on because I stink to them, right? Yeah, I was so embarrassed. I immediately started sweating. I remember at one point I got up, went to the bathroom. I tried to scrub it off. I totally invaded their personal space. Could Sultan Vetiver have worked at that party? I think it probably could have. If I would have done this, if I would have done 1 spray of this under my shirt, maybe in the back, or under my shirt in the front to where I'm able to catch whiffs of this and it's not on exposed kind of places where air can hit my neck, it could have worked. So if I would have gone with 1 spray and if I would have sprayed under my shirt, this could have worked. And even if you spray under your shirt, people are still going to be able to catch subtle whiffs. I just think I did 3 sprays on the neck, so it was so overwhelming. So yeah, that was a very, very embarrassing moment for me. But and this happened last December, so less than a year ago. And so, I still have those times where I goof up a little bit, but, I was being a bit selfish and I knew the strength. I knew how strong this fragrance was, but yeah, I was being selfish and instantly regretted it. So yeah, that's my story about Sultan Vetiver. But next up, we'll be touching on, and I hate to harp on Nishane so much, but if you guys know the House of Nishane, you know that their fragrances are very potent. And they have some pretty kind of bold fragrance profiles. So this next story has to do with Nishane. This one is Credo. And just to give you a quick idea of this profile, this kind of pushes along the lines of like a Tom Ford Oud Wood. It's a bit, it's not a clone or anything like that or a dupe, but it kind of pushes along those lines, but it's Nishane's take on that kind of DNA, I would say. But I love the smell of this. This one smells amazing. But my story with this fragrance is, okay, so I've been working at the same workplace for 10 years now. So, my boss is cool and she's Japanese. So everybody in the office that I work with is Japanese. So I'm the only foreigner there. Thankfully, they are all okay with me wearing fragrances there. But I have learned that when a fragrance does not work, and many of them have gotten to the point to where they'll tell me like, oh, I don't really like that. But yeah, here's a little story. So I decided to wear Nishane Credo and I ended up doing 5 sprays of this. I think I did 2 on the collar, 3 on the neck. 2 on the shoulder, 3 on the neck, like that. I remember I got there before my boss did, so I was doing work. So I probably filled up that small space that we're in. We are in a fairly small space. So I probably filled up that room with my scent. I remember I heard the door open. She came in through the entrance area, and I have kind of like a mirror close to my desk, so I can kind of, if I look in the mirror, I can kind of see behind me, and it's in the door area, so I can see who's coming in. And so she comes into the room. I look in the mirror, and I see her face go like this. It just went like this, and I was like, maybe, I don't know. I wasn't sure at the time. I was like, is it my fragrance? But I started feeling a little bit self-conscious. Right when she comes in, she sits down, she puts her things down, she stands back up, and she opens the window. And I was like, okay, I stink. And now I know that when she opens the window, she doesn't like the fragrance. So thankfully for me, there's been 2 times where she has opened the window. Credo is one of them, and I think the other one was actually, Tonka Hysteria by D'Orsay. I think she's not a big fan of like sweeter fragrances, so I think that was the other fragrance. But yeah, if she opens the window, I know she doesn't like it. And she's told me plenty of times fragrances that she does like, so I do know. And I know she's asked me, hey Curtis, what's the name of that fragrance? I want to get that. So she does wear fragrance. But yeah, but that time I was embarrassed, but you know, I've never worn Credo to work anymore because I know she doesn't like it. But at the same time, also thinking about, you know, again, you know, that kind of more is more mentality. 5 sprays of Credo in a small office space, not a good idea. Like, I could have easily done 2 sprays, and she may have had a better reaction to this fragrance, but I ruined it because I oversprayed the fragrance. So 2 sprays probably would have worked, or even 1 spray. But yeah, I kind of completely ruined that time. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. The next one is, now I just have a sample of this. This is Acne Studios by Frederick Malle. And for any of you guys that know this fragrance, you know that this is a very fresh, clean, kind of aldehydic scent. But aldehydes can be very sharp to the nose. And I remember, I know that I was riding the train. I was on public transportation. Before I got onto the train, I ended up doing about 7 sprays of this. Now I had sprayed my clothes, sprayed my neck. So I mean, I had a pretty nice scent bubble, but my thought at the time was like, oh, this is fresh, clean. I just smell like kind of laundry. Like, I'm not gonna bother anybody. So I get onto the train. The train is packed, full. The train is full. So actually, I had gotten a seat. I went and I sat down. I was sitting down next to this guy. This guy seems totally fine. Maybe like 30 seconds after I sit down, he starts going like this with his nose. And I'm like, and I kind of like look over like this, and he's like this. He's doing this probably for about 5 minutes, and I'm like, I start getting really, really self-conscious. The train gets to the next stop, it stops, the doors open, a bunch of people get out, so some other seats kind of open up. He gets up and starts walking towards the door. So I'm like, okay, this is his stop, he's getting out. No, he doesn't get out. You know what he does? He goes to another seat, like across the way, a little further down. So I was like, oh no. I said my fragrance was getting to him. So he was very sensitive to the aldehydes. And yeah, of course, you're gonna come across people who are sensitive to certain scent profiles. But if you know anything about Japan, number one, you just shouldn't wear fragrance on public transportation. It's just a social rule. You should respect the rule. I try my best to do that. You know, 7 sprays may have been a bit much with Acne Studios. You know, especially in there's no escaping it when you're in a closed space like that. There's nowhere for the air to go, right? you are sitting shoulder to shoulder with people, right? I mean, he's right up on that scent. I had sprayed it on my shoulder, sprayed it on my neck. He's right there. So because you're in such a tight space like that, I knew better than that. But I was thinking at the time, oh yeah, this is like fresh laundry, kind of very clean. It's not going to bother me. I couldn't have been more wrong. So yeah, I was very, very embarrassed. And yeah, I think even on that day too, like it got to the point to where I was sitting down and there was nobody on either side of me. The rows were kind of open for the most part. At least a couple seats next to me were open, and all the other seats in the train were kind of full. So there was like this bubble of just like nobody was around me because I smelled. And while I thought I smelled great, to others that wasn't the case. So yeah, it's again, lapse in judgment on my part. But yeah, it was a lesson learned. And maybe, again, I know that this is just a little decant, 2 ml sample. So maybe doing 7 sprays of this was too much. I probably could have gotten away with 4 and been just fine, or maybe even less than that. Or since I had this, I could have just waited to get to where I was going, got off the train, and then sprayed this. But no, I was like, I just want to spray it before I get on the train. Stupid. So I knew that was wrong, but I did it anyway. So yeah, I think with all of these fragrances, they probably could have worked if I would have adjusted my spray routine. But that's where it really comes down to understanding your fragrance's potency and then adjusting your sprays based off of that. That's really, really important. Knowing how these fragrances perform, yeah, and adjusting accordingly. Now, less is more. I truly believe that. There's a true elegance and subtlety. Now, fragrances like this, like Sultan Viver, are extremely strong. So that's where that, saying of less is more really comes into play, because I can totally pull off a fragrance like this in Japan, but I just need to be careful and mindful of my sprays. Now, with that said, you're like, oh, Curtis, do you only do like 1 or 2 sprays? Like you're not trying. Don't get me wrong. Again, this is where it really comes down to understanding your fragrance that you're going to be wearing. Let me show you a prime example. Cedro di Diamante by Paris Monte Carlo. This is a very citrusy, fresh, it almost smells like a lemon sorbet. This is a gorgeous, such an easy wear. This fragrance is so light and airy. The scent profile is so non-offensive. This fragrance, I might do 20 sprays. 20 sprays of this fragrance because I truly understand the scent profile of this. And this one sits fairly close. Like it's not a heavy projector, but the scent profile in general is just very light and airy, and it can work in any environment here in Japan, especially in the summertime. And it just goes off really well in this humid heat. But again, this is such a non-offensive scent. And I know that's a subjective statement because, people perceive scents differently, but I've tested this many times here in Japan, and I know what I can get away with here. So, you guys can see there's a dent there in that bottle. I'll do 20 sprays of this and be fine. But yeah, in another example of, not doing just 1 or 2 sprays, but maybe doing like anywhere from 15 to 20 sprays, Bergamot 22 by Le Labo. Again, another fragrance that has, like moderate performance, but the scent profile is one that's light and airy and refreshing, and one that I can totally spray more with this. So, you've really got to think about, understand your fragrances, how they work for you, and adjust your spray routine accordingly, depending on where you're going and what you're going to be doing. So, I do hear a lot of people like, oh man, I feel so sorry for you, Curtis. You only do like 1 spray of your fragrance. Well, a lot of times 1 spray is all I need, because the most important thing for me is if I can smell it. I want to be able to smell it. I don't really care so much if other people are smelling it. I'm not searching for compliments or anything like that. Compliments are always nice, of course, but I want to be able to, I want the experience. I want to be able to smell my fragrance. But yeah, I mean, so, really understanding your fragrance, how it performs on your skin, and adjusting your fragrance sprays for your environment, where you're going. And not only that, it's also about matching your fragrance scent profile to the environment that you're going into is so important. And another fragrance that, I've talked about on the channel before, and for those of you that have been watching my channel for an amount of time, I've told the Oud Satin Mood story. I wore that fragrance it was basically like kind of mid-morning time to go have lunch at a cafe. 3 sprays of that. I walked into that cafe, I cleared that place. Everybody left. And I was just sitting there like, oh no. I mean, so embarrassed, humbled, very humbled. I mean, the whole more is more mentality of fragrance application gone completely wrong. Stupid. And not only that, it wasn't just that, but it was just that Oud Satin Mood to a cafe in the afternoon. Like, that fragrance profile totally does not match that environment. So yeah, just huge mistake on my part. But it's like, okay, it's like if I'm wearing flip-flops in the wintertime, fragrance is an accessory, right, to your overall look. So it's important that you're kind of matching to the environment. So, huge lesson learned, but I just wanted to share a few stories about myself living here in Japan, and how, it's really important to understand your fragrance profile, where you're going, and how many sprays you should do. Your spray routine shouldn't be the same for every single fragrance you're gonna wear, because your fragrance profile is different, the strength is different, the atmosphere, weather is different. You need to think about all those things before you put on your fragrance. All right, guys, so that's all we have for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. And let me know down in the comment section, what are some fragrance stories that you guys have? Have you ever gone into a situation where you felt like you've oversprayed, you've invaded somebody else's space? Let me hear your thoughts and opinions. Well, I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.